Thank you for tuning in to the World Builder's Anvil, episode 164. Jeff's GM Toolkit and Bag of Tricks.
Don't know where to start building your fantasy world? Do you need more? Does it make sense? Forget any worries and become a crafter of imagination. This is the place that will help prime your mind. Now, it's time to heat up the forge, break out the mithril ingots and hammer. Welcome to the World Builder's Anvil. I'm your host, Jeffrey W. Ingram. Let's sup from the mug of Java and build.
Welcome back. As always, my name is Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And digitally mastered for your enjoyment, I am Michael Miller.
Well, he was digitally mastered once, but he was locked up for it.
I would have said remastered, but you can only master me once, so it's only one time. It's a one-time thing.
Okay. Yes.
So,
okay.
As always, Jeff has continual efforts to ruin the show. I had a really good show idea, and Jeff, as always, has manipulated it to his own devices. Originally, and maybe we'll still do this, the idea was to have the show be about how to create a one-shot tabletop adventure for role-playing as a GM, as the story creator. Jeff took that and said, no, that's your idea, and I need to bastardize it, and he made it his own. So what we have for you is Jeff's toolkit, how he organizes his GM arsenal, and it's actually a lot of sweet information. So take it away, Jeff.
Well, actually, I have to say, I'm not going to take the blame for this. I'm going to blame the Undercroft today. Actually, I was checking out.
No. The Undercroft is blameless, Jeff.
Hold on. No, in this case, I'm sure the person wants to get blamed. One of our group members, Derek, created a show called Seize the GM, and I had to do some driving today, and I'm still sick, so I threw it on to listen to while I was driving. Great show if you're a GM to check out. And
you know what? I just caught this thread just before we started. He has his own. This is another podcast you're talking about.
Yes, it is called Seize the GM, and I checked it out.
Seize the GM.
Wonderful if you are a game master or want to game master. Good show. 3 people basically talking about GMing. They're a little bit more true game masters in my mind, where they actually play systems, where I play systems that let me tell stories of my world, which is slightly different, but
so it's like what, system heavy, you mean?
Not so much that they're not system heavy when they're talking about it, but they obviously have expertise in a lot of systems and like to play in a lot of systems. They look for systems to fit the genre, where I just use GURPS because it fits any genre I want to play, and it keeps my world untainted by other systems that have their own settings built in. They don't build these things with me in mind. But it's actually a great show. I'll put a link in the show notes for Seize the GM. Go check it out. Get them a rate and review on iTunes if you can.
Yeah, do that. I'll tell you what, Derek, I'm going to check out the show too. I do like a good nerdy show like that, and it sounds up my alley. While we're talking about the Undercroft group, we have a shout out this week that Jeff and I are both a little reluctant to figure out, and I almost messaged her to get the enunciation. It is Hore, and I believe this person's from the UK, if I'm not mistaken. I choose to believe it is pronounced Ori.
Yes.
The American mind of both Jeff and I looked at that and said, "Is that whore? Is that how that's pronounced?" But I'm choosing that it's Ori, even if I'm way off. And it's
and it won't be the first time that. Since Michael hasn't created any fictional languages, he can't say it's like the way you say it, Bedracum. So, I mean,
look, I'll have you know that when I have way too much to drink, I speak in tongues that no one can decipher. So, when it comes to creating languages, I'm right up there with you. So, Ori Rebecca Rachel is her name, and welcome to the Undercroft, and welcome to the community. We appreciate your patronage.
Yes, and I can't wait to see more of what you're working on. It sounded like a fabulous idea. Lots of very creative people in the group. Lots of fun. If you want to hang out with some other world builders, or you just want to hang out and watch some crazy world builders do crazy world building, go to Facebook.com/groups/Undercroft.
And
or if you search for Undercroft, we pop right up.
Continuing on that shout out, I do wonder if it's not Rebecca Rachel and Hore is her last name.
Is the last name?
So if it's Rebecca, then hello Rebecca. I'm not sure because it's like a hyphenated two names and then it's just a strange moniker the way Facebook did it or the way she chose to do it. I don't know. But welcome.
Yeah. Yes. Well, welcome to the group. And so today we're talking a little bit about the tools I use for my world building and kind of how I use them in a way to tell stories.
Now, when you get into the tools, I assume that part of this is going to be what do you call those? A voodoo doll effigy of me and every character that I've ever made. Little paper cutout, maybe.
No, I the voodoo doll for your characters is called the character sheet. There's very little effort for me to screw with them, so I don't even take pride in screwing with your characters. It's like, I killed another one of Mike's characters. Like that's really hard to do.
Is there anyone's in particular you take pride in killing?
Actually, the toughest characters I found to build were the guys who were fellow scouts with me when I was game mastering of the service. Much more difficult combat interactions. I couldn't be lazy there, or they would slaughter my engagements, as I used to call them. So killing off, a combat armed soldier's character is much more of an achievement than any civilian.
Really? You couldn't just, up the ante by, throwing larger creatures at them with like impossible quantities of hit points?
Well, that would just be the normal engagements.
Fair enough. So I have gotten the show notes, as always, moments before the show started.
Listen, we were going to do this episode a week ago.
Which means you should have been more prepared.
Michael gave me the flu, so he's had these for over a week. He's lying.
What did I do? Email you the flu?
Yes. You sent me a virus.
Fair enough. I wasn't even going to go with that. But go ahead. Yeah. We actually this is our second Anvil After Dark, as I like to refer to it, since we're recording in the evening
in a row.
And this might actually become a trend. The last we were going to record this show last Thursday, but you were already starting to feel that, and you were losing your.
And I didn't realize I had the flu at that point, which I guess I should have. My wife had it, but I had the flu shot. Yay, good job, flu shot. Which I guess is not a very effective. Well, from what I heard this year, it does not matter because it's flu type A was not in the vaccine. And that seems to be.
I never get one. Knock on wood. I haven't had the flu since I was like 11 or 12.
So you have got one.
I've never gotten a flu shot, and I got the flu.
Oh, flu shot.
I haven't had the flu in almost 30 years.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Good luck. Okay.
I know. I just jinxed myself, right?
Well, I mean, part of it depends on your work environment. Like, I work in a building where tons of people from the outside come in and out of. Plus, there are hundreds of people in the building, most of which have kids who go to schools, which have lots of diseases.
Loaded with germs.
Kristen works at a university, so between the two of us, we like to bring bugs home, which I don't anymore. This is my first official Ingram Digital Media episode as Ingram Digital Media, even though I've been sick pretty much since I've started. But I've been getting the work done I can.
Basically, what that means is this is day 2, because it was officially yesterday. This is day 2 of World Builder, Anvil, and other Ingram Digital Media efforts being full-time for Jeff. No longer a civilian worker.
No longer a civilian worker.
No longer a rat race.
Okay. Well, a more important rat race. Now, one that I love.
Yeah, but you're not racing coworkers. You're charging ahead. You're forging your own path. You are leading
For me and every creative person I know, we will charge off into success together and have fun together and play games together.
I thought it was into oblivion. We're charging off the cliff.
I'm sorry. That's what I said, but I said it in Bedracum.
Oh, God, yeah. One of these. I got to read that dictionary you gave me.
That's confusing because that one does sound like an English phrase, doesn't it? Okay.
Toolkits.
So the first couple I'm just going to sort of gloss over a little bit because they're more world building tools that I use.
Really? You're going to gloss over maps?
I only have it down for 30 minutes, which for me, maps is kind of a gloss over.
Yeah. For those of you that haven't listened to Jeff's map episodes, maps are one of his favorite things. So for him to say I'm going to gloss over maps shocks me.
But here I'm talking about the tools that I use for map making.
Fair enough.
It's not quite as exciting as making the maps, but there are two in particular that I love. I'm not an artist in any fashion. I do have a history of drawing maps. I'm very good at drawing on grids, on grid paper, on graph paper, I mean. I do have my graph paper notebooks as well that are composition style. But when I make up my world, I made it up in this piece of software called Campaign Calligrapher. And it's a wonderful tool because it's layer built. So essentially there's like a GM layer where I could put on stuff for me. There's a coastline layer, ocean layer, and you can sort of break your stuff up. So when you actually want to take pictures of your world, you can take it from any angle you want, zoom in and out. They're vector art, so I can zoom in and out. They might not look really good if you get too close in, but they'll still be fine, I think. At least for me. And so, and I've seen like some of the stuff that people do in here, I mean, professional guys use this stuff too. There is a learning curve to Campaign Calligrapher, but you can create like really cool old school maps like you get like when you open Forgotten Realms or when, or a little bit more modern looking maps, or you can do almost anything in this. And it's relatively simple to use, I think. It does take some time. I'm getting used to the third version now. I was more familiar with Campaign Calligrapher 2, and I'm getting used to 3 right now. I'll probably be doing some strange YouTube videos where I'm just map making because I'm insane. And but actual video stuff with actual pictures rather than if you watch this podcast and you just get the one screenshot the whole time. But love that piece of software. There's another one, and I think this one's essential. It's a little bit less expensive. It's called Fractal Mapper from the same company.
Are either of these pieces of software free?
Neither one of these are free. These are things I think that are worth spending money on. Outside of I think Campaign Calligrapher is they're usually around $40 to $50, sometimes cheaper. But if you do science fiction or you use a lot of different worlds and geography, you're not such a nerd like I am, Fractal Mapper is amazing. You can actually create an entire world, get the weather, ecosystem, depths of the oceans, the height of the mountains in about 1 minute.
Oh, no kidding.
Essentially, it uses different algorithms and it creates an actual world map for you.
Oh, so
especially like if you.
So this isn't you creating it. This is if you like randomize a world, you like hit a button and it makes it.
Exactly. So you can choose from different kind of methodologies, and you can tweak the random key, and it will create a different world. And I believe there's like over 1 billion different worlds that it can make. And that's you have the ability to then change it. They have tools like painting tools where you can paint climate, you can paint geography, which will affect the climate. It tracks all of that stuff together when it does it. So like if you go in and raise a mountain range up, one side of it will dry out. And then you can actually create exports to go into the actual mapping software that has all of the symbols for towers and dungeons and mines and mountains and hills. You can actually export it into that other software, the Campaign Calligrapher software as well too. And then with the Campaign Calligrapher software, outside of just doing overland maps, there are you can spend a lot of money with this company. And I've actually spent a lot of money with this company. I'm not going to lie, but I did it over time, so it doesn't hurt very much because I love this stuff. There's a add-in design, so you can make cities, dungeons. You can do character art, like those like sort of cheesy pictures that you could sort of fill in the lines of on old character sheets. So it'd be like sort of a dwarven outline, and you could add in a few details to it for the poor artist who wanted a kind of a character sheet. You can actually, it has tools to help you actually make that kind of character art. So it's like not something that's like quite as professional as like the map side of it is, or at least I haven't seen anything like amazing from there, but it'll give you functional, good art to show off your character, to show off what your races look like, whatever you want. There's a cosmographer where you can actually do the cosmos and planets. There's a diorama and perspectives, which will allow you to do it in 2 and 3 dimensional kinds of, like you could do a whole village in 3 dimensions and have people see what the inside of huts look like. Amazing software this stuff is. And that's where I do all my mapping in. And I do some of my artwork that will be showing up will be done in this software too, because my artwork, from listening to Seize the GM, I'm with Jules, and I have very poor artwork, sort of epileptic looking. So, yeah. Now, the second tool I like to use is Scrivener. And I use this for world building.
According to the show notes, Jeff. You're getting ahead of yourself.
I'm skipping that one on purpose.
No, Jeff. No, Jeff. You're not allowed to skip it. You put it in the email, and I'm making you stick to it.
This will be the one time.
My show.
This is the one time. 164 episodes that you want to follow show notes.
Oh yeah, no, that's probably true. One time, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Got ya.
Yeah, you got me.
I'm impressed you even looked enough at the show notes to realize that.
I look at them every time just because I choose to ignore them after the fact.
Yeah. But Scrivener's wonderful because you can actually customize it. There are 2 parts to it. There's a draft section because it's originally designed for people who write books. And so the draft section is where your book goes. There's another section called research. That's the section I use the most, because you can actually just throw pictures in right where you're doing. So if you make like a picture of a map that you're going to use, let's say I'll put it into a piece of software called GIMP, and I'll do like little color overlays to show where countries exist and stuff like that.
I'm sorry, say that again. GIMP?
GIMP, yes, I know.
No, how do you spell it?
GIMP.
Oh, GIMP.
Yes.
It sounded like you said GEMP, like GE. I just want to make sure, because if they want to look it up, I want to make sure they know what you're saying.
Yeah, I'll throw. It's like a free version of Photoshop, but it's only for digital pictures. And like where Photoshop, you can do stuff that's going to be printed out. This isn't designed for that, at least not natively. You might be able to get a plugin to do it, but for digital art, you can do a lot of the same stuff you do in Photoshop. Probably everything you can do in Photoshop and GIMP. But like I like to throw like copies of my maps in there when I actually throw in. And I've done this for some of the previous shows, like when we were talking about, I think, Bedracum, and I had maps there of like where the cultures were and then when the kingdoms were. I do that in GIMP just to add a little flavor to the maps. I could do that in my software too, but I choose not to because I know how to do it easier in the other software. But I can pull all my resources I make right into my world building file. I have special statuses for each of them, so I know like what I'm working on, what needs to be revamped, what needs to be redone. If I create any guides, I can do it up in the draft section, but I do all the work for my world building and my campaign Scrivener files inside of the research section because I could just include the images right there. And I also use Excel. Excel is probably my biggest thing I do use. And this is really more the bag of tricks as well too, where the way I do characters is a little bit different. I have certain predetermined characters when a campaign starts. If you know my players, Michael fits in well with my standard player. Very character driven, doesn't want to do what I tell them to. Resistant, likes to get their characters tortured, builds them.
Wait. When have you ever told me to do something in a campaign?
Hey, there's an adventure over here that you should do.
No. That is not your delivery system at all. That is not true. Jeff is specifically referring to one particular campaign where, and to be fair, it was a collective. There was about 6 people at the table. And yes. Jeff's campaign idea was to have this city under siege, and this group of characters, and mind you, they're not adventurers. These are not combat-oriented characters. They are thespians. They're all actors in a small acting troupe.
Mm-hmm.
And he had all kinds of cool things in adventure planned outside of the city.
Because a massive army was marching towards the city to lay siege.
And we refused to leave because we figured the safest place was behind the city walls. And he proceeded to start a plague. I think there were zombies at one point. There was every bad thing that Jeff could come up with. He put inside the city, trying to get our characters to be like, maybe we should leave the city, but everyone hunkered down even further every step of the way.
Okay,
that was not you. That was not you saying, "Hey, maybe you should go that way." You never did that. You gave us the option. You put things out there in a way that you thought was obvious, but none of us followed.
Yes, like you flee from the oncoming battle. I guess I should have realized. But I'm also thinking of the Gypsy campaign too, where every adventure thread was like thrown away by the characters. Literally would throw away every adventure thread.
I forgot about the Gypsy
Until the point I think I had giant demons chasing them around the world because I was angry at them. And
I forgot that one.
Yeah. But actually, both really fun campaigns. But
definitely, I stand by that. You never told us what to do,
and I don't on purpose. But I usually have a predetermined set of NPCs at the beginning, and I have another Excel sheet where in Excel I'll just store basic stats and a few words, essentially 3 words to remind me of the character's personality.
Like what?
And sort of like it'll be quirks, not opened up in front of me.
Okay.
But essentially, it'll just have basic stats, what kind of job they most closely fall into, and a couple words, basically just enough so I know about their personality. Because most of my characters are in my head, so I can remember them once I've created them. That's one of my gifts, is I'm full of voices.
I was about to say, by characters, do you mean your secondary personalities?
Yes. And then what I also do is I have a secondary sheet, which is of jobs. If you're familiar with the GURP system at all, there are no classes in the traditional Dungeons and Dragons sense, which most role players know, because that's typically the entry point for most people into role playing is typically Dungeons and Dragons. And or at least when I was role playing, I think everyone spent at least time in Dungeons and Dragons, which is a great system to do itself. But one of the things I would always do is I would create these templates of like, this is the skills and basic attributes of a knight. This would be the skills of the kind of characters that they're going to run into in the campaign. And then what I would do is, if like they would inevitably go, hey, there's a giant army coming, let's go talk to the town guard for 4 hours. I could sit there, I could look at that template, I could go over, and I've actually created name generators in Excel now, to where I have list of character names and it will randomly deliver one. So, because there are things you can buy that will allow you to do this, but they're not lore friendly to my world. And anyone who knows me knows I'm very anal about certain things. And so,
and by certain, you mean it's everything.
So the forms of the names need to be correct, fitting into the world. And then, but essentially now I have a file where I can go in, just type in a number and hit enter, and it will actually create a name for me, male or female, depending on what sheet I'm in. I could have actually created something decent because I know how to develop, but it was too lazy to.
Is this a
I'm
tool?
too lazy to really do it.
Is this a tool that you could share, or?
Yeah, I guess it's not really designed to share. Like I said, I didn't put any real effort into it. Maybe I'll throw something together quickly to where people can have a list of names and I'll figure something out for how to share that. But yeah, it could be shared. It's not really like I said, this was the laziest possible job I could come up with, because to me, I wanted the names. I didn't really care how it looked. I didn't need it to be anyone else but me to be able to use it. So it's not really designed well. But essentially, the thing is, so for each of my cultures, I can go into a sheet and I can generate a name, because people who know me also know I'm very bad at names. Names are not my strong suit. I have this one character called Halb, which is just blah backwards, and he's been used 1,000 times when I've just been tired and I needed a character name. I use Halb. Halb is in my bag of tricks, and I think Matt Bannett gets the credit for that one. I use these sheets, but then when I create a campaign file, I can actually drag them over into my resources page. And then when I go into my resources, as long as I don't move stuff around, I can click on it and open it from my Scrivener file. So I can get to all of this from my Scrivener file once it's done. I'll create a story outline just the same as I would for a book. And then I would expect that maybe the first scene will happen. Maybe. Depends on how my players are feeling that day. Sometimes they don't let me go that far, but usually I can get at least one scene done. And most of my campaigns, I've got them to at least come back into the story, throughout time. Or sometimes, you do have to adopt the story back to the players. But I have a basic outline of what I want the story to be. Who are the NPCs I need? Are there important artifacts that are going to come up? If you go back to the story outline where we talked about that, I have that in my research section here. And now if I want to be really nice, which I usually am not, I could use the draft section to create a player guide. So I could put all of the lore that the players should know about the time and place that they live. So if they wanted to, and they should, they could reference that so they have an idea of how the world is like, so they don't accidentally go in and blow themselves up because they sat down in a chair, and no one sits in chairs in this culture because the chairs are for the dead. And so you must be dead if you sit in the chair. So if you sit in the chair and you're not dead, we have to kill you.
Why did they put this here? Because then you will be, and you can sit in the chair.
But especially like for the important rules that the characters need to know about the cultures, even when they're similar, when you're talking a different time period, the world's different, and people think about stuff through the lens of the modern day. Players' guides, and we've talked about this in another episode as well too. But players' guides are a good way to give them the lore that their character should know about the place they go. I usually like starting a group in the same area where they will at least know each other first. And I've done it the other way, and it's a lot more complicated. So I tend not to do that anymore, where the characters are all from, even if they're from the big city, they're all in the same neighborhood. They all at least know of each other, because you need the group to come together so the story can start happening. And otherwise, you can spend session upon session trying to get that one guy to meet the group for the first time. You can do that, and it all depends on you and the way your players want to go, though. So, like I said, my big three tools digitally are Excel, Scrivener, and basically most everything that Campaign Calligrapher has ever made. Even though I'm new with most of it, I've been buying it over time, but with my previous job, I haven't had a lot of time to do it. So as I kind of learn stuff, I'm going to be sharing them. That's why I'll be sharing them on YouTube. But now I have one other very important tool, and this is going to blow everyone's mind. Blow everyone's mind here. Michael, can you guess what my final tool is without looking at the show notes again?
Yeah, I did. I was looking up the show notes. Yeah, I don't know if I would have. Are you talking about what I recommended to you? Okay. Well, Jeff's referring to notes.
Oh no, I'm going to get notebooks, and I'm going to get to the one that
Look
you
at
referred
you jumping
to
all over me before I could even share the amazing thing that I brought into your life.
I'll let you share it, but then I'll explain why.
Jeff, admit the amazing thing that I brought into your life.
Well, we'll find out, because I will definitely be testing out. But in general, I will have at least one notebook with me. I don't like to type into a computer when I'm game mastering to take notes. So I will have a composition notebook. People will be shocked to know with me. So I can take session notes down so I can know what characters want to kill what players by the end of the session, because that's always going to happen in any good game. The characters will create enemies every session, and this makes it easier for you to kill them. And now, why don't you tell them about, this is the new tool that I'll be getting, I believe in April. I have to recheck that. And I'll explain why. But Michael, tell them about this awesome notebook that you found for me.
So is what you have written there, is that the legit name Wave Smart Notebook?
I think it's a Rocketbook Wave Smart Notebook, I believe is the
So the Rocketbook Wave Smart Notebook is literally a notebook, but it allows you to put everything in digitally. Allow me to explain. You have this special notebook. The notebook itself is special, but you do not need a special pen. There is a specific pen that you have to use. If Jeff, please confirm. Because have you purchased this yet or no?
Yes, I've not, and I'll explain why when you're done.
Oh, because I know why. So it's a specific notebook, but the pen is an off-the-shelf pen, but it is a specific pen. It's not a super expensive pen. You write in the notebook. You with that particular pen. You then take a picture of it, and
nope.
Well, I know you have to put the little check mark. I was getting to that. Is that what you're going to stop me for? Or?
Yeah, you don't need to take it. It does that part itself when you tell it where to put it.
But you have to you still have to take a picture, don't you? Because it's linked to an app.
It's linked to an app, but when you do the app, it actually does it. It takes a picture of the screen and puts it there. I don't think you physically take a picture of it.
I believe you have to take a picture of it, Jeff. That's how it gets it into your software.
The notebook stores the conductivity.
The notebook is just a notebook.
Itself, no, it's not. It's a smart notebook. You have to connect your notebook to the app. You do that via a website.
Okay, what you're talking about is definitely different than what I remember. What I remember, allow me to describe what I remember. The product may have changed. Mm-hmm. It was literally a paper notebook, special paper. You have different things that you would check off in the notebook. So, and you would designate in the software, there's like 5 different categories at the bottom of the page. You'd draw something or write something in the notebook. There would then be whatever you put in the notebook, whether it be writing or drawing or what have you. Mm-hmm. Then you take a picture of it with the phone, and the phone would pick up the app, within the app, would pick up on the page. It would scan the page to size. It wouldn't take like if you take a picture and it's like bigger than the page, so you got part of the table and everything, it would just take the page. It would recognize the thing that you checked off, and then it would categorize that in whatever you've pre-programmed that, say, department to be. Mm-hmm. Now, hang on. Let me. I'll tell the full process. Yep. Then you share what you know. Now you fill the notebook up. Well, now the notebook is full. You've got ink on every page. So what do? You microwave it. Mm-hmm. This ink, coupled with this special paper, erases the notebook, but everything that you have put into it is saved digitally. Mm-hmm. So you tell me now what you're talking about, where you plug the notebook, because as far as I was aware, it was just paper, just special paper.
From my understanding is there is actually some of the things you're checking off is like what app. So there's like a website you go to, which like say is Evernote. And you can click on like the Evernote, some like portion of it. I think it's almost like a screenshot it sends to it. I don't think you use your phone in the process, except to set up the connection to. And I could be wrong. Maybe I didn't pay enough attention to that part of it. I might not do it if that's true, because I have a piece of software called Cam Scanner 2, which does the rest of that. But the second generation, the reason why I've not bought it is at this point is the problem is after 5 microwaves, it's done. You throw it away and it's done.
Okay, that I didn't know. I was under the impression you could just continue to do it.
Nope. But the second generation one, which is supposed to come out in April last I saw, and maybe I was looking at strictly the second generation prototype, and that's why there was a little difference than what you were telling. You can do it 100 times. So essentially, it's like $20 or something like that for a notebook that you can use 100 times, and you don't have to worry about losing the book in a fire, or having it put it onto a Word document on your computer and then losing your computer. So hopefully those things don't happen, but they can. But this puts it out onto the cloud. And I don't remember you have to take a picture of it. I believe it was, and I could be wrong with that, because maybe the symbol you click off is what tells it where to put it for you, because you can connect it to a few different things. So I want to rewatch that part of it again, but it's definitely something I'll be checking out and probably getting a version of it just to play with it called the Rocketbook Wave Smart Notebook. And if I'm wrong on that name, in the show notes, it will be corrected. And I will have a formal written apology by Michael attached to it.
Formal, yes.
For any errors that we've had, I'll just write it up for him.
I'll sign them up. And then deny everything.
That's how it works. But yeah, so I mean, but that's essentially, those are really all of the tools I use. And it might sound like a lot because I'm a bit crazy, but it's like the world building file, you build once, and mine will actually be going onto my website over time as more of my world gets re-rolled out. And so I'll do away with that, but it will be available online, at least the publicly known stuff about it, and maybe a few secrets, but not everything. And then the campaign files I'll always use because they're just very convenient. And I love the campaign calligrapher because I can, once again, because I could make sort of professional quality graphics, at least in comparison to what I could normally make, pretty simply. And very powerfully with a little bit of practice in it, I will give you, but like they're built-in tools to make it easier. So, you can draw a whole continent or an island or whatever. There's a tool to where you can fractalize the lines so you don't have straight lines on it because coastlines are jagged. So it'll do that for you. You just tell, okay, do that for me. It's like if you want a mountain range, you select the symbol set you want, and you can draw like a rectangle shape, and it will fill in all of the symbols so you don't have to place every mountain. And same thing for vegetation if you want the tree symbols on the map. Just very powerful software. I like it a lot. So I would advise to check it out and consider it. Put it on your Christmas list if it's high on your budget list. If you're working full-time and can afford it, buy a piece at a time to fill in, needs to make your life easier. So Excel, you can get pretty simple if you get the student version of Office, where you get Excel and Word. Campaign calligrapher, Scrivener, also, once again, not that expensive. And I'll be putting links to all of the tools in the show notes.
The Rocketbook Wave Smart Notebook.
Mm-hmm. Yes, which is what I've written down in the show notes, if you notice.
Yeah, that's what I was just reading. I was just adding it to the list of things that you just stated. That's all. You can thank.
Yes.
You can thank me later. I'll give you a sheet that will go on and on about your appreciation for my value, and you can just sign it.
Very good. Okay.
We call that a callback.
Okay. Well, I'm going to not respond to that. I don't make this episode any more explicit. Okay. Now, for the World Builder task of the day, look at the toolkit you use. Either go to the Undercroft group or on Twitter. Let us know the tools that you use to do your world. It doesn't need to be this complex. A little graph paper and a notebook is good enough. But how do you put your world together but more so, how do you put your campaigns together? How do you put your stories together to share with other people? So let us know how you do that. We look forward to hearing about that. And the Undercroft group is definitely the best place to do that. And now, Michael, what is the real world task of the day?
For me, the real world task of the day is to bring in your garbage cans because it's been really windy and the garbage cans are blowing all over the neighborhood. So make sure to fasten and secure your garbage cans.
Okay, now I'm going to do mine where I'm going to do the shout out for our group members and his podcast again, where it's go check out the Seize the GM podcast. I'll put a link to the website there, but I believe it's in iTunes and probably in some other sources as well too. Good podcast for any GMs or wannabe GMs out there.
Thank you so much for listening to the World Builders Anvil. We would love it if you would share the World Builders Anvil with 2 of your friends, and so would they. If they are unfamiliar with podcasts, then you get to introduce them to the wonderful world of podcasting by showing them Stitcher or iTunes, or, best of all, just send them to our website, www.gardul.com. That's GARDUL.com.
Now strike. Why the Mithril's hot.